Everybody, so today we're going to be coloring this super cute Magnolia image called Lonely Tilda with Her Heart, and she is a card kit in the store, so if you'd like to go grab her and color along with me, head over there and do that, and I'll leave a link down in the description box. So I've already stamped my image on Nina 80-pound solar white cardstock with Memento Tuxedo black ink, so let's color. So I'm going to start off by outlining my image, and today I'm going to use W0. I'm switching it up today. So I'm going to start down here at her feet, and I'm going to take my W0 and I'm just going to lightly go around her and just make an outline. Nothing too fancy. I just want to give her a little bit of a shadow so it looks like she's popping off of the page. And I don't worry if I get some on her because it's so light that when I color over an area it's not going to show up. But if you're worried, you can take your colorless blender and erase it, or be more careful, unlike me who's just going around in a big quick zip around the outside here. I'm usually a lot more careful when I'm coloring just by myself. Next, let's do the ground, and for that we're going to use E55, 53, 51, and 50. And let's go up here. So I'm going to start with my E55. I'm going to tip my girl a little bit so I can flick a little bit better. And I'm just going to start at the edge of her shoe here and just flick away. And as I'm moving away from her shoe, my hand automatically picks up. So as I get further away, my streak gets lighter. It gets a lot skinnier out here towards the outside. And I just go like that. Then I go with my E53 next. And I go right over the top of those colors, the color I just laid down. I'm going to go past just a little bit. And then 51. And then 50. And then I like to darken up the shadow underneath of her again, so I take my darkest color, which is E55, and add just a little bit back in there. I may not go as far, or I may go further out than I did the last time. Next, let's go do her skin, and for that I'm going to use E11, E21, E00, E000, and for her cheeks I'm going to use R20 and R30. And let's go ahead and start on her arms first. I'm going to go with my E11 first, and I'm just going to add a little tiny bit right underneath of her sleeve and down the side of her body. So I'm just barely using the tip of my pen, like that. And then over here on this side, again, we're going to go underneath of her sleeve, and she's got a little creak here where her arm is bent. I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to go under her elbow, and just a tiny dab up the inside of her arm. Next, I'm going to grab E21, and I want to touch down on top of my last color and pull past. Just brushing right over the top of that, and bringing that down a little bit more. Same with this side. Brush right up here and pull that color out just a little bit. And we've grabbed E00. And I'm just going to leave a little bit of white on the edge of her arm there and her hand to fill in. And then over here I'm going to fill in the back of her arm. I'm going to come up over here on this side, and we're going to fill in some more of this hand. brush over that just another time there. It's not looking very, very blended. And then I'm going to grab triple zero. We're going to fill this side in. And this side. Let's go up here and do her face. And again, I'm going to start with E11. And I'm also going to add a little bit right here in the crink of her neck. And then for this side of her face, I'm going to go right down her bangs and add just a little bit of this darkest shadow right down here to her hand. And then I'm going to grab E21. We're going to add a little bit to her neck. And then we want to soften this edge, so I'm going to go right along that E11. Pull that out a little bit. Bring it down here. And then I'm going to add a little tiny bit on this side. Okay. Then I'm going to go with E00. And we're going to fill in her neck. You still got a little bit of space left. You fill that in. And let's pull some of this color up here into her face. And brush this side. And then we're going to fill it in with E00. And I'm not worried that it still looks blotchy because I'm going to go over it again after I do her cheeks. So I'm going to grab R20 for her cheeks. And let's brush right over here and do a little bit around her finger there. And then this side. And then I'm going to take R30 just to soften the edge. Okay, and then I'm going to add some more color. So I'm going to grab my E21 again. And we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to lightly add a little bit on this side and just flick a little bit so that as I pick up my pen, I'm adding less color. And then I'm going to grab E00. And I'm going to flick clear over that entire cheek area. And then let's do this side. And again, I'm going over that entire cheek. And then I'm going to grab my E00 and just brush it over the whole area there. Then I always like to go back and darken my cheeks up again, so I've grabbed R20. R30. And then I take E00 and just brush right over those cheeks a little bit. Next, let's do her hair. For that, we're going to use E35, E53, and E50. I'm going to start with my E35. Let's go up here and we're going to do the roots first. So let's just start here and I'm just going to flick my little pin right in that crease and pull away from that her root area. We're going to do the same thing on this side. And again, as I'm brushing, my pen is picking up towards the end there, and so it's lighter out here towards the end part. Okay, and let's also do down here by her neck. So I'm going to do just the tip of my pen so I don't accidentally color her. Like that. And then right up here, let's do above her cheek a little bit. Let's flick that line up just a tad, like that. So she's got a little bit of a start of a shadow there. And then let's go over here and do this side. Let's go down here and do the bottom first. Let's do the bottom of this cute little bow. And she's got it kind of tips back in right here, so I'm going to add a little bit of color right there. And then we're going to do above her little bow. And then we're going to go over here where it looks like it kind of folds back. Add a little bit of color. Here where it looks like it's coming out from behind her face. Let's do right there. And here it looks like it's dipping back behind this little piece, so I'm going to add a little bit of color in there. And right here, this one looks like it's kind of coming out from behind this other little section, so I'm going to add just a little tiny dab of color right there. Sorry about that. I had to close the blinds. The sun decided to come out from behind a huge cloud, and it was just shining right on and making a big mess. So E53, and so we're going to add that on here. We're just going to go up here on this side and just flick some more color in. Okay, and then we're going to go on this side. And we'll add some more color down here. And just, whoops, let me move up a little bit. Let's continue down here and add a little bit. So we've got quite a bit of white space. Actually, I think I'll add just a little tiny bit more right here along this side right here. And then I'm going to go in with my E50 and fill it in. I'll get this side. And actually this time I'm just going to kind of flick over the top of it, making sure to catch the edge. And if I didn't get it all colored in, I'm okay with that. And then of course I like to go back with my darkest color and add my shadows again, so I've grabbed E35. And I'm just going to go up here and add a few little dark streaks in where her roots are. And work my way down here to the little ponytail. And I'm going to leave her hair just like that. Next, let's go do her shoes. And for that, we're going to use E49, E44, E43, E42, and E41. So we can get a little bit closer there. So I'm going to start out by doing the sole of her shoe. And for that, I'm going to use E49 first. So let's give this little section just a little flick on each corner. And I don't use E49 very much, so you better be, if you don't use yours very much, make sure it's not too wet and make a big blob. If it is, you might want to take the end off both sides. And next I'm going to grab E44, and I'm just going to fill in a little bit more of that area. And then I'm going to fill that in with E43. Gives a little bit of shiny spot there in the front. And then for the shoe, we're going to start with E44. We're not going to use the 49 this time. I'm going to go right down the edge next to this boot. And I'm going to pull that along the edge of her sole there. And then we're going to go down this side. We're going to go next to her cute little ruffles on her shoe, or on her pants. And then again, I want to pull this color along the sole of her shoe too, over here to this side. And then I'm going to grab E43, and I want to soften that edge, so I'm touching down on top of the 44. And this side, we're going to fill in this back section right here. And then we're going to go again along the sole. We want to soften that edge. I think I'll bring this side up just a little bit. And then 42. On this side. And then I'm going to fill it in with 41. So next, let's go work on the accent of her outfit, her bow, and this cute little heart. And for that, we're going to use are 39, 37, 35, and 32. So let's go ahead and start with these cute little hair bow first. So I'm going to do my R39, and I'm just going to go ahead and color the little hair bow that's on her hair, and then I'm going to give each little bow a little streak. Then I'm going to grab 37 and just add to that color. 35. and then 32 to fill it in. Pretty easy. Then we'll go up here and do the top of her little outfit. And again, we're going to start with R39. And so let's go right next to her hand and then along this cute little top of her outfit. And I'm going to actually do a little bit right next to her shoulder. And I'm going to go with 37. Let me tip her a little bit more here. I'm going to pull this color out just a little bit more. And I'm going to bring this color down next to her sleeve there so it adds a little bit of a shadow in there. And then R35. And then we're going to finish off with the 32. And we also want to do the little ruffles on the bottom of her pants. So again, I'm going to grab R39 and let's add a little bit of shadow. So I'm just going to go next to the bottom of her pants. And just a little bit. And over here we'll add a little bit next to the shadow. Like that. Next, take R37 and you just want to soften those edges. So I'm just going to lightly go over that. And there's not much room, so you're just going to have to use just a little bit. Whoops. Carefully. And a little bit over here. And then R35. And some of them are so small, I'm just going to fill this little one in right here. And then fill in the area with R32 if you got any sections left there. That looks really cute. All right, next, the heart. So R39 we're going to start with. And I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to give this little heart, this back side, a little bit. I'm going to bring my this middle section down just a little bit. And then we'll fill in around her finger and down next to her body. And then I'm going to go up here to this little section right here, just a little tab. And then we're going to go with R37. I'm going to tip my girl a little bit more here. And let's do this section. And again, I want to flick away from here and soften my line out towards the edge. And the same for this way. We'll go this way and flick up a little bit. That way, as I'm brushing away, my line gets a little bit smaller. And I want to do over here just a tad. And then I'm going to grab R35. And let's brush like that. Tip my girl again. And go like this. I'm going to keep that one out, but I'm going to go with R32 to fill this in. I'm going to brush all the way over here. And I'm going to take my R35 again and just get it wet. And then take R32 and brush over that again. Cute. Okay, that leaves us with her outfit, and for that we're going to use C9, 7, 3, 1, and 00. If you didn't have the C's, you could use any of the other grays if you have those to color with. And so I'm going to go ahead and start with my C9 first, and let's just start over here on the sleeve. So I'm going to go down the side of her sleeve with my C9 right next to her body there, and just add a little bit of shadow. And then I'm going to go with my C7. Bring that out just a little bit. And I'm going to actually bring it down onto this one, this little scallop she's got there on the bottom. And then I'm going to go with C3. And then she's got a little bump, so I'm going to take this little bump up here like this, just to give it a little bit more definition and give it a little wrinkle in there. And then C1. And I left just a little spot there on the edge for my C00. Easy as that. And let's go over here and do this other sleeve. So again, I'm going to grab C9, and I'm going to add a little bit of shadow right next to her arm. And then I'm going to grab C7, and let's brush that out. And let's go over here and add a little dip onto that one. And her head's kind of tipped, so I'm going to bring this color out a little bit more away from her body there. And then we're going to go with C3. And again, on this side, I'm going to add a little bump up here on her sleeve. Add a little bit of definition there. And then C1. And I'm going to leave just a little bit of white on the edge for my last color. And C00. And again, if you wanted it to be darker, you would just go back over the entire thing. But next, let's go do the center of her outfit here. So again, I'm going to grab my C9, and I'm going to go right down next to her hand, and back here to her fanny. And I'm going to go down this side of her leg. And underneath of her kneecap. And this pin's really wet, so I'm going to go ahead and take the other end of my pin off so that it doesn't make a big mess. It's feeling like it might be a little drippy. Then we're going to go underneath of her body there, and then let's do the inside of this leg. And again, under her knee. Oops, wrong end. Okay, and then I'm going to grab C7, and I want to soften that up, so let's go ahead and do a little bit on this side, like that. I'm just brushing over that line a little bit and adding a little bit more color. I don't want to do too much, because again, this color is pretty dark still too. I'll go down this way. And then C3, let's pull that color out a little bit more. And let's bring this color around. And we'll come up here. And let's go ahead and add some color there above that. And then for her little wrinkles here that are on the top of her dress, I want to add some lines on those. So we're going to go ahead and bring our wrinkles down. And I'm actually going to add a little bit along the edge here like this. And then we're going to grab C1, and we're going to fill a little bit of that area in. I'm going to leave a little bit of white left so I can have some highlight. And then my C0, I'm just going to color the whole thing in. Okay, now I'm going to go back with my C7. I'm going to brush over this section a little bit more. Let's brush right out here like this. Okay, and then I'm going to grab C3. I'm going to need to soften this line up here a little bit. I'm not liking how that looks. Okay, that looks a little bit better. And then I'm going to go with C1. And then C0. That looks better. I think I'll actually do that again on this leg. So I'm going to grab C7. And again, I'm going to just flick away from that just a little bit so that my pencil's picking up more towards the outside. So it's making it a little bit lighter there at the end. And then this is C3. C1. And then C0 to fill that in. So that is Lonely Tilda with Heart. Isn't she cute? And so here's the finished card. Let's see if we can zoom out a little bit more. Very adorable. And I've added some Spica glitter pin to her hair, of course, and then I added some stickles to her outfit here, to the little ruffles, the hair bow, and this little top. And then I put some Smooches glitz onto this cute little heart here, so it gives that some sparkles too. But if you have a question, leave me a comment down below, and I will get back to you. I hope you had fun coloring with me today. We'll see you next time.